Reason that the male loneliness epidemic is being taken seriously to the point where it's comical.
100% to everything they said. I want to add also that what's really frustrating about it is that they're saying young men who are lonely and disconnected, they become violent. They're a danger to society. But their answer isn't, let's figure out why young men become violent and a danger to society when they don't get their emotional companionship needs or sexual needs met. And let's fix that, because that's a big problem. Instead, they're like, hey, women, go take care of that. Like, let's hand over our women and force them to meet those needs in order to avoid the violence of men. Honestly, I support taking it seriously, but let's put the onus for solving the problem on men for men. Men, figure out why your young men especially become violent and a danger to society when they don't get the women that they want, and fix that. Not by making women take care of them.
So I keep hearing about the men's loneliness epidemic as if it's a woman's problem and we have to do something about it. But why don't we put the responsibility on men? They've created this problem, therefore they should fix it for themselves. They've created this world where all men had to offer was money and property. But now that's changed, and women have their own money, and we can buy our own property, and we can open our own bank accounts. And we're just not as dependent on men anymore. Therefore, there's no reason for us to feel obligated to marry a man or be with a man. Now we actually want substance. We want sustenance. We want somebody to show up for us emotionally. We want somebody to be intelligent. We want all of these other things. And men are like, whoa, too much to ask, because they've never had to offer that before. Like, I'm sorry, you have to have a personality now, Brad. And these men are complaining our standards are too high, as if they didn't force us into marrying them in order to have a life, in order to do anything.
I hear a lot these days about men's loneliness epidemic, how we feel very isolated, how we don't feel supported. And a lot of the conversation immediately goes to the way men are treated by women. But I really want to talk about the way men are treated by other men. What are we doing to support and encourage one another? Because men will be the first people to tell you that you're not strong enough, you're not tall enough, that you don't make enough money, that your survival skills aren't what they should be. Men will take jabs at each other all day, and for the most part, it's just joking. It's just a bunch of teasing. But if it's all you ever hear, it's going to get to you. And that's why you have men, especially younger men, who try so hard to get the approval of the older men in their lives. They want to earn the respect of their father, of their brother, or their cousin, or their coworkers. The person whose respect you're trying to earn, is it earnable? Will they ever appreciate you? We should be lifting each other up as much as we can. How hard would it be to say to another man, hey, the way you interact with your kids is inspiring. I think you're a great father. You have impeccable work ethic, and I see how hard you work. You have a kindness about you that makes everyone around you feel safe to be themselves. When we see another man do something that we genuinely respect, we need to tell them. And we should tell them in front of their kids, in front of their spouse, in front of their coworkers or their boss. Because honestly, as men, it is easy to fall into this trap that we are chasing the approval of the people who are the meanest to us. Thinking we can live up to their expectations when really they're people that just put others down so that they can feel better about themselves. Maybe if we start genuinely appreciating one another, we won't be so lonely.
So apparently there's a male loneliness epidemic.
When we say the patriarchy doesn't just negatively affect women, it's also men. There was a study done on lonely deaths. It was between 2017 and 2021. Women and men. Men are at least 4 times more likely to die alone. And that number is just increasing.
I want to be the man in the relationship. I'll be the provider, and you stay home and take care of the house.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I want that too.
But I don't want a gold digger, so you're gonna have to get a job.
All right. I guess I'll try to make that work.
I don't want you to make too much money, though, because that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't want you nagging or controlling me. I already have a mom. I don't need another one. Although I really liked how she cleaned up behind me and did my laundry, so if you could do that, that'd be great. I want a loyal woman. But what I do is my own business, and who I follow on social media, I mean, I'm a man, I don't know, I can't help it.
For the fellas, would you rather tell your feelings to a brick wall or to a woman?
These men absolutely cannot stop telling on themselves, and at this point I think it's kind of hilarious. Now, I love this previous creator's response to this video because it's so true. But I'm going to say it out loud. The male loneliness epidemic that we're facing right now is almost entirely self-inflicted. Because yeah, just like this previous creator said, boys will do anything to avoid talking about their feelings. Especially women, who will give them the most honest feedback. They will throw away like 24-year lifelong friendships just to avoid talking about their feelings and self-isolate. And an interesting thing about this male loneliness epidemic is it specifically just talks about men and their friendships. Like, it's not even about dating and relationships. A lot of these surveys are surveying married men, and I see this all the time in my male friendships. And there are tons of people who have already done a deep dive into how they set up the patriarchy, right, for them to not feel masculine enough talking about their feelings. And of course, because of this, almost like half of men feel very unsatisfied with their friendships because they can't form close and fulfilling friendships. But most male friendships that I've lost in my time on this planet have been because they refuse to talk about their feelings and they'd rather just like block everyone and disappear from your life. I actually have 2 guy friends who have done that this week. They're saying they're going through a lot of mental health stuff right now, so they've just completely cut everyone off. Even though I'm like really concerned and beg them to talk to me about it, because that's concerning. And one very bold example of this is one friend I made in college, right? We were friends for like 4 or 5 years, a pretty stable friendship. And actually, like the first time I met him, I had a very big crush on him. But he was not interested. It was college, right? He was out partying, doing whatever, and that's fine. So we just became friends. And I saw him like slowly going down this spiral. And every time I tried to get him to like talk to me and open up about stuff, he just would like disappear off the face of the planet and come back a couple months later. Sometimes he would call me like crying and freaking like after a long night out, you know, as guys tend to only be able to open up in those moments. And it got more and more concerning, and the things he started to tell me became more and more concerning. And anytime I would try and help him and like problem solve with him when he came to me, he would get like mad, right? Because usually he was kind of the problem in a lot of his stories, as it tends to go. And like we had to stop hanging out as well because like it was just, he was getting kind of scary to me, honestly. And one night he confesses, of course, that he's totally in love with me, right? And I had to be like, hey, I've always been in love with you too, but you're like literally, you've been at rock bottom for a year. Like, this is very concerning. And I can't do that to myself. I've been sitting around, you know, for 2-3 years hoping that you will get help and listen to all of us. But every time someone tries to help you, you disappear off the face of the planet and then you show up at 2 a.m. after you've had like an entire handle because apparently that's the only time you're ever capable of actually speaking about your feelings. And then when everyone gives you honest feedback, you become absolutely enraged. And you can't see how this would maybe make me afraid of being with you. Of course, there was like a lot of other stuff that happened. But the bottom line was like, dude, one, you're also like really, really intelligent and an amazing like technical engineering designer. You have such a bright future ahead of you. And for so long, I've also wanted to be a part of it. But you keep self-isolating, refusing to let anyone help you, and destroying your own life. Obviously, I can't be a part of that. That's not safe or fair for me. Like, dude, I need you to know, hopefully this is your rock bottom of rock bottom. You're the only one responsible for, one, blowing your chance with me, of course, and just blowing your chance at an amazing life in general, because you have, like, all the options in the world right now. Of course, he couldn't hear a word I was saying, right? He got so enraged. It was so scary. He blocked me on everything. I decided that was definitely for the best. He came back a few weeks later, tried to unblock me and continue to, like, talk in circles again, not hearing anything, so I didn't even respond. I blocked him on everything and I had to walk away. But yeah, if y'all just keep bottling everything up inside and letting your problems worsen instead of sharing them with other people and actually listening to the feedback, you are solely responsible for the crappy life you will lead.
Sorry, not to be a hater, but the male loneliness epidemic, who fucking cares? Literally. What are you guys gonna do now? Pew up a bunch of schools? You already do that. You're gonna unalive your wife and kids? You already do that. You're gonna terrorize nations? Already do it. Start a war? Did it.
Yeah, she is pissed at white men. Anyway, anytime I hear about the male loneliness epidemic, I always think, like, how do we quantify this? You know? Like, you can pull up the stats for who's single with no children. But you know how women get online and they say, I'm better paying 100% by myself than 50-50 with someone else. Men just don't say that out loud as if it's some kind of like extra. It's just being an adult. So I don't know how to put that into numbers. You know, there's a lot of men who are single with no children on purpose, living by themselves on purpose. And I will argue that the yearning for a family definitely comes more from women than men. Seldom do you see men trying to speed that specific process along. The whole biological time clock shit, unfortunately, it's true. How many rants do we have to get online and hear a day about, oh, why are these men 30 with receding hairlines and they're talking about they're just trying to figure it out? It's because, like, he's cool with where he's at. Like, women get mad at men for not settling down fast enough. That lets you know who's in more of a rush to get into a relationship. When y'all talk about male loneliness, it's like, bro, I just don't know how... It sounds like a really good angry female talking point in my head. I never really give it... Like, there are some lonely men, but at the same time, there's lonely women complaining that they can't find the man they want. I don't know, man. I think y'all just need to stop with the whole male loneliness epidemic.
Okay, now this just showed up. Patriarchy is a cult. It's a cult psychosis that supports the capitalism kink and the white supremacy through colonialism and Christianity aspect. But specifically speaking about patriarchy, because you know I love doing that, one thing I'm realizing as to where the male loneliness crisis might be is that we used to live in a world where, because men were the only people that were like human beings, essentially the male echo chamber was imposed on as much real estate as possible. And that allows for the free sharing of these derogatory terms, of these bullshit ideologies, of ignorance all over the place. But one thing you don't realize as somebody who's in the male psychosis, but while it's active and alive, like socially, is that the derogatory terms that you use, like jokingly amongst each other, and the phrases that you say and the ignorance that you spread, it's actually wrong and very ignorant to the world of real human beings that also exist and breathe the same oxygen and live on the same land as you. So the longer you exist within and perpetuate this patriarchal psychosis, the further and further and further it pushes you away from the real human beings that aren't accepted or validated in that psychosis, while coddling you so much and protecting that coddling by allowing you to project your insecurities onto other people. So you become dependent onto the patriarchal psychosis to validate why you need to dehumanize so many people to help yourself feel masculine, rather than why you and why we as men collectively can't look within to see why we've been allowed to be manipulated into selling out access to the human rights and protections of our communities and the development of our authentic cultures for the sake of this other dude who's only been selling us lies as a means of having the opportunity to, for lack of a better term, grape and exploit everything that exists within the communities that he thinks he's conquered through this like valor and excellence, but it's just through warfare and corruption. So now the male loneliness aspects, it's when you leave the cult, you have to realize that your language, your perspective, your demeanor, everything is rooted in, these are all the devils, the demons, the enemies outside of me. I was just told and indoctrinated while I was in there that these people were all against me. But it's not them isolating me. It's me isolating myself. And the way that I engage and refuse to heal from is what's making it so fucking difficult for these people to want to accept me or want to be in a community with me, because I am so abrasively like acting against their real identities that they have already taken independent time and space to find means to love and support. So why the fuck would they bring me, who definitely needs healing, into their community just to sabotage or destroy their ability to love themselves for the sake of me hopefully being able to accept myself at the mercy of their livelihood? And then men sit here saying, there's nowhere for me to go. There's nowhere for me to go. It's like, no, patriarchy does this to us. And we have to sit here and either choose, I want to live in a community and a family of human beings and surrender to those goals that we have to meet together, or I'm going to sacrifice every single fucking human being that's not a man to believe that an absent father, existential, spiritual godfather is going to somehow come and save me, as long as I'm willing to, hopefully sell myself into slavery on this earth. Like, it's, patriarchy is the psychosis. And I hope you guys know that just connects it all. The male loneliness crisis is created by men, and the way to the way to complement that loneliness crisis that inevitably gets manufactured by men is, hey, if you submit to the system, you know those women that you don't have access to anymore, we'll give you one of them, and you can do whatever you want to her because you own her. And then that gets literally everybody running up a hill trying to chase this goal that doesn't exist. And it's still just perpetuating the buying, selling, dehumanization of women in our communities. That's never going to fundamentally allow us to create community that complements more than women just being wives and baby incubators. The more I'm going to keep having these conversations, the more you as a dude realize that your power does not have to come from dehumanizing other people. It should come from your access to your own humanity and the complexity of that beyond what patriarchy is. Because then you don't have to depend on patriarchy to give it to you. You can depend on life. You can depend on the people that love you. You can depend on the world that exists around you, with or without us human beings. And you could put your truth in that instead of your truth in the hands of your oppressor or your master or somebody who literally has never had your best intention at heart ever and lies about your history. So you think that patriarchy is actually real and it isn't something that's imposed and rewritten into our history to forward validate it in like a reverse engineering way.
You make me too much labor all day, every day, therapist, mother, maintenance, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant.
So let's talk about the male loneliness epidemic because it has been all over my FYP. It keeps coming back up. It's been several people have done studies on it. And to me, it boils down to a few things. To solve a loneliness problem within yourself, like if you are lacking a relationship, romantic relationship, friendships, immediate family, whatever that is, you are in charge of creating connections. It is you who solves your own loneliness problem by getting a hobby and finding other people who do that, by engaging with people on the internet can feel like that sometimes. If your goal is to find a partner, then trying to date and meet people. And men so very often do not fill that role in their own lives. It is their moms and then their spouses who arrange date nights, who arrange community time, who invite the people to the party, who know about the party and schedule it so that you go. So I think when people talk about the male loneliness epidemic, all it says to me is that you have not taken control of your own life. You are waiting for the community to arrive for you. Just like when you were a kid, chicken noodle soup did when you were sick. But newsflash, you're the mom now. You're the person who creates your own community. It is not someone else's job to create your community. And this does not cover all situations. I understand that this is like a thing worthy of talking about, and men need to talk about their feelings and express them way more often than they do now. But the notion that this exists and it's up to someone else to solve this problem is ridiculous to me. Join a book club, take a class, go to the gym and make friends. Be your own connector.
I've been reading and seeing a lot about the male loneliness epidemic that's been going on. And I think so many people aren't getting it on both sides, both genders. And as someone who is male and has spent a chunk of my life lonely, I want to express what I think the real concern and the real issue is. So basically, it's not as simple as blaming one of the genders. It's not as simple as saying men suck or women suck. It's more complicated than that. Basically, what it is, the world today in general is a hard place, but men, I think, have, especially men who look like me, white straight men, you have the societal expectation on you to succeed because you don't have any barriers in your way or things that you can collectively fight for, like things that are holding you back. So you have the societal expectation and societal pressure to succeed. And also with that comes, I think, you try to please a lot of people. You try to please yourself, you try to please your parents and your friends and society at large. So there's a lot of societal pressure on you to be success and to always be achieving. Now, this also gets compounded when you aren't living up to something like that. It makes you work even harder and put even more pressure on yourself. And this is combined with a couple other things. When you are lonely, like as a man, it tends to become a positive feedback loop when you're lonely, it makes you be very angry or sad at the world and at people and society. And when that happens, it makes you want to isolate yourself even more, which makes you more sad or aggressive, which makes you want to isolate yourself even more. And it's just a constant loop. So you have that combined with feeling like you're not achieving enough or not enough of a success. And so you take those two things, which are already a storm that's brewing, and you combine that with the societal stigma of reaching out for help, you feeling like you'll be judged if you reach out for help or not wanting to do it because of that. There's also the fact that male friendships, I'm a big advocator of male friendships should be deeper and they shouldn't be so surface level. Guy friends generally aren't going to have those deep and meaningful conversations with you unless you really pry. And you also combine that with just basically feeling like society doesn't care. I think people men, especially straight white men, you know that you're not going to get any sympathy from society at large because you have some systemic advantages. Can't control them, but you have them. So society in the world at large isn't going to give you as much pity or sympathy. So you have all of that weighing on your shoulders on top of feeling like you have nobody to turn to. That is just a recipe for disaster, and it generally takes the form of, self-harm, self-loathing, self-deletion, or it can be aggression towards others or society at large. This is part of what plays into what creates, people who self-delete or, men who go on to commit, mass shootings or violence. I think that's a big part of what does that too. So the solution isn't as simple as just blaming one gender. It's, first of all, both genders need to come together to wipe out these stigmas. Men need to form deeper relationships. And the other thing is, yes, the dating market doesn't help. Certainly social media has made men become more isolated. And also, society needs to tell people, in particular men who should have all the advantages, that it's okay and that you don't need to be some billionaire with 3 kids and 5 cars. It's okay if you're just barely scraping by, because I think so many men feel like we're never good enough. No matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, we can never meet the expectations that society and the world at large has for us. So that's basically what I think it is. And it's a difficult thing to solve, but it's more complicated than just blaming someone, I guess. That's what I'd say.
Say what you will about the men's loneliness epidemic, but yesterday I got on here and I asked men what were the signs they looked for to know that they had emotional safety in a relationship, in an environment, in a group. And hundreds of comments later, this overwhelmingly is the consensus. They're safe when they're alone. Maybe when they're with their dog. But they only really know they're safe. They only really feel that emotional safety when they're on their own. So that says something powerful to me. It feels very reflective of what I experience as the therapist for men working with my clients. But I hope that regardless of who's seeing this and hearing this, that it tells you something too.
I don't get it when men say you're gonna grow old alone with cats, as if that's something that's gonna scare us.
Whenever I hear about the male loneliness epidemic, I think about something my therapist has said to me so many times, and he refers to a book every time he talks about this,
I don't know what book it is, but maybe someone could tell me. It's about how historically women have always had to have endless empathy for men at all times, and we were never allowed to express it. And every single time he talks about this, he would tell me about how in the 50s and the 40s, women would snap and flip out on their husbands, and that's when they would get thrown into like an insane asylum. Because like all women, I often talk about how I feel guilty for having a legitimate reaction to something a male did to me that I then have to coddle them so they don't feel bad about it. Since we're all collectively deciding to no longer be endlessly empathetic, we can maybe put all the men who complain about the loneliness epidemic in the insane asylums. Bring them back just for that purpose. Oh no, it's the consequences of your own actions.
You're all alone, bro. See how nobody's calling you, nobody's texting you, nobody even cares if you're alive, if you're doing well, yet you still care about yourself. If everyone else in this world does not care about you, why do you care about yourself? Why do you care if you're feeling unmotivated one day? Why do you care if you're feeling lazy one day? That's the problem with some of you guys. The reason why most of you can't accomplish all your goals, accomplish that grand vision you have, is because you have to feel motivated. You have to feel a certain way. That's the reason why you haven't been able to do shit. That's the reason why you've been remaining stagnant. You see, you're waiting for everything to be perfect. You're waiting for everything to line up just for you to take action, just for you to do that task that you know you're meant to do. If you're gonna keep waiting for everything to line up perfectly, for just something to just magically fall into your hands, for you to finally start feeling like you want to do something in life, the truth is it's never gonna fucking come. And you're gonna be sitting there wasting all of your time, and there's gonna be a time when you're 30, 40, regretting every single decision that you made, because all of your indecision right now, your hesitation, is also a decision. Shit's never gonna be more perfect than now, so just start now.
I am 25 and I have no friends.
That's when I realized nobody cares about you in this world.
What the fuck do you do when you're depressed and you don't know what the fuck is going on with your life? I'm 23, I'm about to graduate. All these kind of good things are happening around me, but man, I ain't been more depressed in my life.
Because I don't have any friends. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had friends.
I don't know, man. I'm just tired of being alone, bro. Shit's actually mad, sad, and depressing. Hand on heart, man. Yeah, it's sad.
And the only thing I won was being alone.
And I tried to fill the void, like with streaming and that, or like playing games, but it don't work.